US police are losing patience with the anti-corporate Occupy movement 2 months after it flared up and spread across America. Officers in riot gear raided a protester camp in the city of Oakland, dismantling tents and arresting activists. RT's Lucy Kafanov has been covering the Occupy demonstrations and joins me now live from Oakland in the States there. Lucy, 2 months in now, thousands of protesters are still camped out across America calling for an end to corporate greed. What's it going to take to stop them then, do you think?
I'm not quite sure, and I think that's the million-dollar question that most of the officials at these different city and states are asking themselves. Because again, we've seen crackdown after crackdown. It seems like the crackdowns are definitely increasing, beginning with right here in Oakland. Earlier today, we went out there. There was a lot of speculation about a potential raid over the past few days, and so we didn't know if it was going to be any different today. And of course, as soon as we got there, saw officers again fully dressed in riot gear moving in on the protesters. But interestingly enough, there wasn't the same type of clashes that we've sort of grown accustomed to and seeing in Oakland. It all went down rather smoothly and peacefully, despite a lot of nervous tension. In fact, protesters gave my camera and I these masks that are soaked in vinegar. It's quite a stench to protect against tear gas. None of that was used. But those occupations, they do seem like they'll continue, not here in Oakland for now. That plaza was raided, the tents were removed, the protesters were dispersed. But I guess the most important thing to watch here in Oakland is what happens in the aftermath, because of course we saw just a few weeks ago that those tremendous photographs that made Oakland look almost like a war zone somewhere abroad, where police were using tear gas, flashbang grenades, all kinds of non-lethal projectile weapons that ended up injuring the Iraq War veteran Scott Olson. So we will be watching to see whether there's going to be a repeat of that kind of violence in the aftermath of the raid. And we do know that protesters are planning on gathering in just a few hours. So we'll be on the ground trying to see how things develop there.
Now, the movement started in a single city, but it's since spread worldwide. How much of an impact has it made so far, where it really counts?
You know, it's a really debatable question. I mean, where it really counts is, if you ask the protesters, is to stop the sort of unchecked corporate greed, this unchecked control by Wall Street over Washington. And that, of course, has not been stopped whatsoever. But there are some developments that sort of make it seem like this movement is spreading, is having some sort of an impact. For example, in the mainstream media discourse, you hear a lot more discussion about income inequality, social injustice, the sort of financial distinction between the top 1% income earners in this country and the rest of the people that don't seem to be making quite as much. And it does seem like perhaps in the coming months, politicians can no longer ignore this movement. Perhaps we'll see sort of like what happened with the Tea Party, where politicians will be forced to take on some of these ideas and talk about sort of moving away from this wealth inequality that really is so significant in this country, and so surprisingly so, because again, when you think of the United States, you don't really think of third world images. And unfortunately, in some of these cities and towns, that's exactly what it's developed into, where people can't afford their schools, they can't afford their homes, they can't afford to find a place to live. And in fact, I think that's in part why these Occupy Wall Street protests have been so popular. Not only is it an outlet for people's rage and emotions, but in fact, it's a place for some of the lower income folks to come and get free food, free healthcare, a place to get away from it all, and a community that actually does accept them. That is what a lot of those people have told us in our travels covering this movement.
Lucy, thanks very much indeed for that. RT's Lucy Kafanov live from Oakland in the US.